slide in here. All right, I'm going to be really honest. I have no idea how I ended up here for a few reasons. One is I haven't done SEO in quite a while. And the second is I would have never considered myself to be a technical SEO. And like I said, I jumped ship when things started getting really fucking hard. So kudos to all y'all. This is tough work you're doing here. Y'all been going through it the last couple of years. You guys okay? Like, things have been tough. I mean, Reddit and Google decided to hop into bed together, and that really kind of messed some things up for you. And I feel like we need to go back to like 2018 and say, hey, Ross, you were right. I guess we shouldn't have made fun of you for being on Reddit all the time, getting suspended and kicked off and all that stuff, right? And then we have like the godfather, my what I would consider to be my godfather of SEO, right? This is who I learned SEO from, Rand. He was like, don't worry, you're going to learn SEO and you're going to be good and everything's going to be great, right? Because we own it. We own this shit. And then he starts giving talks like this. And he's like, hey, the SEO thing, we might want to expand a little bit because we don't actually own that and things are getting crazy. And I'm like, oh no, that can't be good, right? Things are constantly changing in our world. This is probably the biggest one that everyone's talked about so far. This is where we are. It's like, do we do SEO? Do we do AEO, GEO? I saw LLMO. Who in here? And who's looking up LLMO? Come on. So this is like Google Trends, right? If you don't use Google Trends, that's a bummer. But like looking at Google Trends, like all of these things are trending up. You all know this, but don't worry because like SEO is still like way, way over this. People are looking for your services. That's great. You're going to stay employed. But like we're freaking out over this, right? The AEO, LOL. And like just a little side quest here, I was looking at Google Trends and I was like, well, I'm already in here, may as well look some other stuff up. But like I looked up ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and Gemini, but like this is Google data, like people looking on Google for things, and they're saying that Google is still like way higher than all of these other ones. So I think we're gonna be okay here. And then just again, a little bit for fun here, I just was like, well, what about YouTube? You know, that video platform that's also a search platform that Google owns that SEOs don't generally tend to care about for some reason. I don't know, but it's above all of those as well. So that's a thought. But anyways, we're changing. Things are changing. And what the question we're all here to like answer right now, right, is like, how do we keep winning? How are we supposed to continue to grow, right, and make meaningful impact when things change this much? And the answer is kind of, it's really easy to say. It's really easy for me to say, but it's kind of hard in practice because the answer is to always be testing, right? We got to keep testing things. We got to keep like trying and maybe failing, trying and getting things right. And that's how we continue to grow, okay? So this is what it looks like in most organizations to test, right? Somebody goes and they read an article and they go, hey, AI, all those LLMs, they love listicles. We're gonna go do listicles. And then they ship it, and then they go, woohoo, we did it, we win. And then somebody comes in and goes, hey, did that work? And they go, I think so, sure. But that shit's backwards, okay? We're going off what other people are telling us to do. You have all of your own data, right? Everybody here who has GA4 on their site. Everyone else, let's have a conversation. Or at least I hope you have something, okay? Right? We have our own data, and that's what we should be making decisions based off of, right? But what I find is that most people don't have, they get a little bit nervous about making decisions because really, really smart people like Tyler, like, what am I doing? I don't know how this happened. But it looks really, really complicated, and it can be very complicated, but there are easier ways to do it, okay? There are easy ways to do it. So I use something called the Beast Cycle. That's a shameless plug because my company is called Beast Analytics, you know, things like that. So, and this is what it looks like. You benchmark, explore, analyze, strategize, test, right? So this is the framework. It is basically the scientific method, but I think it's like common, like, I think I can use that. Anyways, it's branded, okay? So thankfully, I have a really good friend, Nick Leroy. Shout out Nick Leroy and SEOJobs. Yeah, Nick's the man. So he lets me use his data. So what you guys are going to see right now is real data. So everybody thank Nick next time you see him, okay? Or shoot him a message on LinkedIn and say, Brie said you're awesome. Okay, so we're going to go through this entire cycle. We're going to go through the whole thing, and we're going to use Nick's actual data. Thank you, Nick. Okay, so the first question, or where we're starting right now, is benchmarking. And when you benchmark, you're supposed to ask yourself, what are we trying to do? And then you're supposed to take the numbers for how well are we doing this today, okay? So the first thing you're going to do before any of this is, especially if you have GA4 on your site, you need to double check your tracking. When was the last time, who in the last 30 days has checked their GA4 setup? And those are my people. All right. Okay, so I built this thing. This is a shameless plug here called GA4 Helper. If you go to ga4helper.com, I built a settings checker. It looks for all the different ways that you could possibly be losing data in GA4. Not all the ways, some of the big ones that have to do with your settings, but you should be checking your key events and all that other stuff too, right? Make sure everything's tracking correctly. Every single launch, every single change should have a goal. Okay? I don't care if you work in content. I don't care if you're working in GEO, LLMO, AEO. If you're just doing tech, or not just doing, that sounded really bad. If you're doing tech SEO stuff, if you're working on user experience, CRO, all of these things have a goal that you should be tracking, okay? Because you can track these things. Core Web Vitals, you can push them into GA4. You can see if people actually read your data based on their scroll depth and how long they're spending on the page, right? Like all of these things can be tracked. So you ask yourself, am I tracking that correctly? But we also need to look at success outside of ourselves, right? So we tend to look at what success looks like for us. If we're working on site speed, maybe we are looking at Core Web Vitals or whatever that is, right? But we also need to keep in mind the client. So the client could be whoever's above you in your organization. Your client could be an actual client. And then also whoever they report to, whether that's they're reporting up to a C-suite, they're reporting to their spouse, I got to report to mine, whoever that is, right? You need to make sure that they're in a good position to answer questions about success to that boss as well. Okay? And then you're going to go, how are we trying to achieve whatever that goal is, and can we isolate that data? Okay? So if we're working in local SEO, do we have UTMs on our Google Business Profile links, right? Like it can be that simple. But how are we going to isolate the data based on our efforts, right? Okay, and then this part's really important. Make sure everyone involved agrees. We're all going to agree on the KPIs. We're all going to agree on how we're going to pull data, where the data is going to come from, right? Because if you go, hey, don't worry, we're ranking in the top 5 for all of these keywords that you care about, and they go, our leads are down. Nobody's called us. Well, now we have a problem because they were looking for leads and you were looking for rankings, okay? So we're all going to agree on what the KPIs are, and we're going to put it in a document called the tracking plan. Everyone's going to agree. It's going to be written down. Sign it, and that's what we're working off of, okay? So create your tracking plan. And also in the tracking plan, this is where we're going to take those benchmark numbers. So whatever that goal was, we decided that we were working towards, we're going to take some benchmark numbers. We got this many leads this month on, whatever that might look like for you, okay? Take your benchmark numbers. So back to SEOJobs, we're looking at how many people, the goal of SEOJobs is to get people jobs in SEO. So we need people to look at the jobs, and then we need people to apply to the jobs. So we're pulling how many people viewed jobs, different jobs, and then how many people applied to the jobs, right? So benchmark data, right here, we had 58,000 job views and 15,000 applications. Perfect. Now we're going, we spent a lot of time here. This part is really important. Most people skip it. Please make sure your tracking's working, you have the goal, agree on it, and you take those benchmark numbers. Okay. The next step is to explore. And this is where you go and gather all of the data you possibly can, all those different sources. I used to say that just like in general, go explore, be messy, get lost. But then people started getting really lost. So what I'm saying now is explore, but in swim lanes. Okay, so create your own swim lanes, whatever those might look like. For me, I like to ask kind of these 3 questions and then splice and dice the data like this. Where did the conversions happen? So where on our site did that happen? Where were the people when they converted? What kind of devices were they using? Where did the user come from? So how did they get to our site? So we can look at source, medium, campaign, things like that. Landing page, page refer. You can use path exploration in GA4. Yes, it does exist. You do have to go to the explore section of GA4. And then we look at like off-site factors, so things that we can't see in our first-party data, we'd have to use some sort of third-party data. So the other things that could affect how people got to our site, or were there algorithm updates? Are users changing their behaviors? Like, are they using different words now for some reason? Or is search up or down for these specific keywords? Have there been changes in the industry? Did a bunch of LLMs come out? Whatever that might be. And then your competitive research as well, okay? I nerd out in GA4, but this is where all of my stuff starts, right? So I'm in GA4, and I'm trying to figure out where did these events that we're trying to optimize for happen. Turns out most people, I went to the pages and screens here, used the report filter to look for the specific event names we want to optimize for, and it turns out people apply for jobs on the job pages. Right, but I had to show you because I told you needed to do it. Here we are. All right, so then we go, how did they enter the website? Or how did they get to the website, right? And this is where most people are going to look for that information. So this is your traffic acquisition report. It's using tends to use session channel, primary channel grouping at first. I hate channel groups. That's a whole different conversation. I use session, source, medium. And this is a good start, but there are actually three different types of acquisition in GA4. You have your user acquisition, session acquisition, and then if you're looking at key events, all of the data-driven attribution lives in the attribution path. So people don't like GA4 because they think data-driven attribution's all over it. It's not. It really only lives in like a couple reports. You have to use very specific dimensions. But if you're looking at things that you've marked to be a key event, this is the best place to find data around it, because when you go to the attribution paths, it actually shows you these. Do I have a pointer on here? No, but there's a danger button. So that's, I don't know what that's going to do, but I won't press it, promise. You can see it right here. I didn't do a very good job of this, but y'all remember multi-channel funnels in UA? Yeah, it does still exist. It is in GA4. You have to go to the advertising section, but once you're in the advertising section, there's something called attribution paths, and then you can see these multi-channel funnels. Now, the thing that really, really sucks about this is you can't filter it, okay? You can't filter the data. I don't know. I didn't make the UI. You can't filter the data. So what you would have to do is you choose either the channel grouping, the source, or the medium, because you can't look at two at once. You can only look at one. So I chose the source because Nick doesn't run any ads, so I know any Google data is organic, right? And you can export it. So top right corner, there's a little share button. Click the download file and export to Google Sheets. And then I made this thing because you can filter the data, but then it doesn't aggregate correctly. You have to re-aggregate it. I have a sheet. If you go to that link or scan the thing at the end of the slideshow, you can get the sheet. It walks you through how you can re-aggregate all of this so you can see everything that Google touched or LinkedIn or whatever, re-aggregates it correctly for you right there. So this is how you can see all of those assisted conversions as well, right? All right, so that's how people got onto the site. Where did they land? We're looking at the landing page report. Everybody probably has seen this report. And then I like to look at them together as well because, you know, just another layer, getting a little bit deeper into the data. Okay, so you can see that the home page, obviously, we're seeing the home page here quite a bit. We see the remote page a little bit. All right, so on and so forth. Go into Search Console, grab your search query or your URL data, then your search query data. Great. Ahrefs went and pulled some competitor data for Nick here, and then also pulled some information just about his rankings over time, and went into Google Trends and exported some information. I'll tell you why I exported it in a minute, but exported some information around remote SEO jobs, okay? So we have our benchmark data. Then we explored. I grabbed a couple pieces of information here. We got good organic traffic. The home and the remote page led to the most applications. Okay, now we're going to analyze. Again, this can be scary. We don't need to freak out. I always say analyzing comes down to two things. It comes down to trends, and it comes down to outliers. And the best way to find trends and outliers is to visualize your data, right? Because if we look at something like this, how many of you are very excited to be looking at this block of numbers? Right. Oh, again, my friends, I see you. All right. So if we're trying to figure out applications and sessions, like we're doing some mental math here, right? Or we could just put it in a scatter plot. This doesn't look very good up here, but there's a trend line. You can probably assume where it is. Right here, okay? And anything under the trend line is below average, not great. Anything above the trend line is good, okay? So visualizations to make things easier to understand. Like I said, I exported this data from Google Trends, and the reason I did that, should have mentioned this earlier, I'm using data from January 1st to March 1st. So I was able to export that data. I can mark January 1st here, the average across, right? And now that's going to make it easier for me to understand when I'm looking for trends and outliers, okay? So the trends are the things that are happening consistently. What can we bank on happening over and over again? When I look at applications over time, I see this very obvious trend. Mondays, we get a lot of applications. People show up to work, they hate their job. People show up to work, realize they don't have a job. I don't know what's happening, right? Something's happening on Mondays that's leading to a lot of applications. All right, great. Now I have that in the back of my head, okay? Looking at this again, I can see the trend here is that starting in January, people were looking up remote SEO jobs a lot more, right? Like even at the most, whatever, some sort of level here, you can see oh, we got more pointies here. Cool, more pointies on this side, they're higher, like that. There's a lot more going on this side, perfect. Also, just looking at this, again, we talked about this a little bit, but the home page we're seeing, but the remote page I'm seeing a lot. So for LinkedIn, the remote page, people landing on the remote page tend to apply to jobs, people landing on the remote page from email, people landing on the remote page directly, organic. I would say that's probably a trend, right? If people land on the remote page, they're going to apply. The outliers are the opposite of this, right? The things that are standing out. So again, here, if we look at the trend, most things are falling on or under the trend. We have these two things that are outside of that, emails and organic, right? So that Monday, what's happening on Monday? People will hate their jobs when they get there? No, Nick sends a really good email on Mondays that people apply to jobs from the emails, right? Okay, so now we're getting into this, and then looking at the landing page report here again, there was a very clear outlier. So the home page obviously is the home page. That's where most things are going to happen and people are going to land. But the remote page is when we look at the number of applications and we look at the average applications per session or per user, those numbers are much higher than any of the other pages on the site, right? So now I'm starting to think. We had the trends and we had the outliers and we have them all in the back of our head. And now I'm are there trends and the outliers and the trends? I don't know. Because I remember this landing page, remote's working really well. When I looked at the Search Console data, our remote pages were the ones getting the most clicks. And then I looked at the queries and I was oh, a lot of our queries that are bringing in a lot of clicks, they also have remote SEO jobs in them somewhere. So then I was I'm not just going to look at it and assume. I'm going to export all of my Search Console data. I'm going to put it into Claude and say, hey, can you help me make this a word map? It gave me a table too, which was nice, but I like the word map. It's a lot easier to see. So it looked at all of the times that remote was brought up. Well, each word was brought up in a query. And now we can see by click volume, jobs and SEO were the most used words, but that remote word is in there too, right? So look at Ahrefs, look specifically at the remote SEO job page. Now, our positions did start increasing around this algorithm update, so I did put that, earmark that. But we also know that those remote SEO, searches were on the rise after the new year. So two things to consider. So we analyzed, we know that the emails are working, remote SEO queries are on the rise, and the remote page is doing well organically, ranking and driving applications. Perfect. Now we have to decide how we're going to move forward. How are we going to turn this into strategy? This is the part where people tend to fall off. I have all these data or all these data points. Now, good job. Let's go make a test. It's well, we have to be strategic about it, right? So I think that strategy is going to fall into one of three buckets, something you're going to start, stop, or scale To figure out which bucket you're in, you're going to ask yourself 2 questions. Was the return greater than the investment? So is it working, basically? Is it driving leads? Is it driving revenue? Whatever. If the answer is no, you can't keep doing it. That doesn't mean like altogether like, oh, our blogs aren't leading to revenue. We're never going to write a blog again. It's like, no, maybe we write different kinds of blogs. Maybe you tried those listicles, right? I don't know. If the return is greater than the investment, the next thing you're going to ask yourself is, did I mean to do that? Did we have a tactic for this, or like, did we have a strategy for this? If the answer is yes, then that's something you scale. If your blog posts are performing really well, then it's like, well, what are these blog posts about? If you realize that they're leading to a lot of like if, let's say, like ChatGPT is sending people to your blog post and then they're converting after that. That's an audience that has researched, but then they're coming and they're converting. Maybe we could try a warm audience, like targeting them with ads and sending people to those blog posts as well, right? So we get more bang for our buck. If the answer was no, you didn't have a strategy behind it, like let's create one. If you realize that there's like a blog out there, I keep saying blog. If there's a blog out there that has been referring traffic to you and it's converting really well, like maybe we reach out to them and do some more collaboration or something like that, right? Create a strategy. So this is what the whole flow looks like, right? Again, not super complicated. So from here, I just came up with some examples. So emails led to a lot of applications, but in the emails, Nick usually only lists specific jobs. Maybe he could start putting the remote page at the bottom. Like if you're interested in more remote SEO jobs, here, click on this. And the remote page is performing really well organically, so we could scale that. Like how do we get even more traffic, right? Nick's in SEO, so he decided that he was gonna optimize the remote page a little bit more. But this is where you test and you track, right? So you choose one of those things. We don't control much in our industry. A lot of things are constantly changing. So we want to control the things that we can control, and that's how many things we're going to change at a time. So we're going to choose one thing to track or one thing to test, and we're going to stick to it. If you're trying to figure out which one of these things do I test, you could use this really simple thing that I came up with, or you could use Tyler's really cool, really in-depth system that he showed us before this, okay? But this one is just like, we want something that's gonna have the most like potential impact with the least amount of effort and the least amount of friction. Friction's a big one too, right? And then we're gonna go back and we're gonna re-benchmark, okay? So we originally grabbed benchmark data, like overarching benchmark data, but now that we know exactly what we're going to test, we have to go back and say, okay, we are going to test optimizing this remote page even more. So we're looking at people who landed on the remote page organically, and then we're going to pull these specific numbers. So 2,400 job page views, 826 applications, and then we run the test, okay? So we benchmarked, and then we ran the test, okay? But this is a cycle after all, right? So we tested and now we tracked. So the next time we saw, oh man, job page views went down. Oh, drots. And then the applications, that went down a little bit too. And the users were down. The number of users that applied went down. Hey, we had more applications per user, so that's good, right? Now this was the overall benchmark data. And that's fine because failing is still learning. But if we look specifically at the remote, people that landed on remote organically, we actually did have a 6.5% increase in applications over the 3-month period, right? So January to March and then April to May, June, right? We did increase 6.5%. And then this is where people go, yeah, we did it. We are the best SEOs of the world. And then we're happy, and then we just move on and pretend like everything's good. But the goal is to compound that effect, right? This is a cycle. You compare the data back to the benchmarks, but then you do it again. Then you explore, then you analyze, then you pick a strategy, and then you run the test, right? Because the more we do this, the more we learn, And now we're talking about a compounding growth, right? Because every win, we're going up a little bit. It's a little bit more sustained because we're running the next controlled test, right? As opposed to just, hey, we heard about this strategy, let's test it, and you get that one happy spike, and then it just falls down, right? So create controlled tests, continue to test. You don't have to use this framework. Come up with something in your organization, and always be testing. Thanks, guys.